a night in January 2004, a man and his 18-year-old girlfriend are arrested in a substance-fueled car crash. During interrogation, the police uncover one of the most disturbing, vile, and shocking cases in all of post-war Italy, being linked back to a satanic cult named the Beasts of Satan. Hey everyone, I just want to say really quick, thank you all so much for the... Fat cunt! Thank you all so much for nearly 1,400 subscribers. This is ridiculous. Why are you all watching this shit? This shit is so bad. These videos aren't good. I don't know why you're all... Stop watching them. But I just want to thank you all. The amount of support that all my videos have gotten in, like, specifically in the last, like, couple of days. I think I've got around 50,000 views, like, currently. Or, like, I'm just about to hit 50,000 views altogether, which is insane. I've been doing this shit on and off since, like, 2019. So, to see this level of, like, people watching my shit is crazy to me. Yes, I just want to say thank you all once again for your amazing support and just how well these videos have been received. And thank you all once again. Have a good day, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Goodbye. Before beginning anything, we need to first talk about two specific people and three bands, with the first person being Fabio Tollis. Fabio Tollis was born on May 31st, 1981 in Milan, Italy. He was a big fan of extreme metal and was a big part of the Milan metal scene. At the age of only 14, Fabio would join a band by the name of Inflictions. The band, originally a more melodic death/thrash metal type band, had an extra bit of brutality added to it when Fabio, who was into the more extreme side of death metal. Deicide, who will be getting their own video at a point, was Fabio's favourite band, with Glenn Benton, the frontman of Deicide, being one of his biggest idols. Glenn Benton is, of course, known for his insane antics and personality, which has gotten him into a lot of trouble over the years, and nearly killed on numerous occasions due to his extremely satanic beliefs.
Inflictions released 3 demos with Fabio on vocals and or on bass, but only one of those demos is actually available to be listened to online, so we will only be covering that one demo, which is called Heretical.
Inflictions at this time had 5 members, that being Cressy on drums, Gianluca Del Fiol,
and Ricky on guitars. Just Ricky. I don't know anything about him. I can't find anything about him.
Andrea Di Castri on bass, and Fabio on vocals. In 1996, they released their first ever demo, Heretical. Being recorded in Milan studios from September 20th to September 21st, 1996, this demo features 5 songs, being named In the Reign of Dreams, Picture of Death, Mad Mind, Infliction, and Odium. This demo features some absolutely incredible death metal, with Fabio giving a standout performance on vocals. The instruments are very clearly Deicide inspired, but also extremely melodic and catchy, bouncing off the other instruments extremely well. It truly is a shame of the circumstances involving what happened with this band, and specifically Fabio, which we'll talk about soon, as there's clearly a lot of passion and energy put into this project. During the time Inflictions run as a band, Fabio was also a part of another band, a band named Ferocity. Ferocity was a brutal death metal / grindcore band made by this piece of shit named Mario Macione, who will sadly be getting a shitload of screen time in this video. Mario would also constantly use the name Ferocity as a gay little nickname for himself. Mario was considered by Fabio to be his best friend, which is utterly tragic considering what Mario would eventually do to Fabio. Mario was also seen in the cult we're talking about today as a sort of mediator to the other side during their rituals, which was often just him screaming and doing the death metal vocals as him talking to the other side, in quotation marks. The lineup of Ferocity included Mario on guitar and vocals, Fabio on drums, and a man named Max Putrefio on bass. I think I said that right. In 1996, Ferocity released their debut demo, The Second Act. The Second Act was recorded sometime in 1996, somewhere in Milan. Most likely in Malibu Studios, the same place Heretical was recorded. This demo is a brutal death metal style similar to Death Grind and Gore Grind. Extremely fast guitars and drums, unintelligible vocals, and a hint of retardedness gives this demo a quote-unquote cool sound. but not really anything people haven't heard before. The demo has 6 songs, including the intro, with those songs being Intro, Cosmic Violence, Your Pain Is My Nocturne Joy, Me vs. God, Grinder Soul, and Oh. In 1998, Infliction would release 2 demos, being named Proto Cindy 1998 and The Bleeding Dreams. With Fabio being the lead singer of Inflictions, he would often perform at a local pub that would be extremely important to this story, the Midnight Pub. He would eventually become a well-known figure in the local metal scene in Milan. Eventually, he would meet a group of people, with those group of people being Andrea Volpe, Nicola Onosson Sapone, the 2 leaders of this group, Paolo Ozzy Leone, Pietro Wedra Guerreri, Marco Kill Zampolo, Eros Chaos Monterosso. This group of people would eventually be the group that committed some of the most infamous and shocking crimes in all of post-war Italy, the Beasts of Satan. The group would often go party in the nearby woods in Milan, involving sex, drugs, and occultic activities. Fabio would often show up home covered in bruises, cuts, and cigarette burns all over his body, which his family grew extremely concerned about. Fabio would apparently show a lot of concern about the activities the group were doing, which were quickly becoming illegal. This caused the group to be worried that he would confess to the police about the activities they committed in the woods, and caused Andrea and Nicola to believe that a power balance could be brewing up in the cult. So, in order to teach him a lesson, they decided to get rid of Fabio and his girlfriend, 19-year-old Chiara Marino, forever. On the night of January 17th, 1998, Fabio met the group in the Midnight Bar, and was invited to head back to the woods again for another night of hanging out. Fabio was forced by Nicola Sapone to call his father to let him know that he would not be home that night, due to going to sleep at his girlfriend's house. But he would never come home, or even make it to his girlfriend's house that night. Later on that night, after drinking and doing some drugs, Andrea, Nicola, and Mario told Fabio that they planned on sacrificing his girlfriend, Chiara Marino, due to how pure she was, and the cult believing her to be a depiction of the Holy Mary, saying she would be the perfect sacrifice. Fabio was of course extremely opposed to this, and desperately tried to defend his girlfriend, before being forced to watch his girlfriend be stabbed to death, before being beaten to death himself, with Mario, Fabio's supposed best friend, committing the final blow with a hammer. They were then buried. When their bodies were letting out their last bits of air, the group shoved chestnut leaves in their mouth, dipped cigarettes in their blood, buried them, and then urinated on their grave, announcing after that, "Now you're both zombies. Try to get out of this hole if you dare." Fabio Tollis and Chiara Marino were only 16 and 19 when they were tragically killed. After Fabio didn't return home that night, Fabio's father, Michele, began to investigate not only the Milan metal scene, but the entire metal scene as a whole. He investigated due to him believing Satanism and heavy metal had something to do with his son's disappearance, which had been labelled originally as a lover's affair, with Fabio and Chiara running away to live together, which Michele had an extremely hard time believing due to how happy of a life Fabio was having with his family in Milan. During this time, a lot of the members of the Beast of Satan and people connected, either directly or indirectly, began to disappear or show up dead. It is estimated that upwards of 18 victims have been linked or suspected of being murdered by the group. Chronologically, the deaths and disappearances included Christian Figueroa, a former friend of the group who disappeared under suspicious circumstances. He reportedly knew a lot about the group's activities and disappeared on November 1996. Andrea Bondade was a drummer associated with the cult, and was supposed to be at the murder of Fabio and his girlfriend, but ended up only digging their graves and not showing up. This caused Andrea Volpe and Nicola Sapone, the leaders of the cult, to question his loyalty. So, one night, it is heavily speculated that the cult got him heavily drunk on beer laced with LSD before Nicola Sapone handed him an equivalent of €5, told him either you do it or we do it, and later that night, Andrea Bontade would crash his car into the wall of a home at the speed of 120 kilometers per hour, killing him instantly. Andrea Ballarin, a childhood friend of Andrea Volpe, was found hanged in his former school. His death was originally ruled a suicide, but was later reconsidered due to his connections to the group. Angelo Lombardo was a 28-year-old cemetery caretaker acquainted with the group members. He was found burnt alive in a cemetery in Legnano. Doriani Molla was a 26-year-old who was found hung in a forest. While initially ruled a suicide, investigators have recently later discovered possible foul play involving the group. Luca Colombo, a 21-year-old flower seller and friend of Nicola Sapone, was found hung in Legnano. And finally, before we get to our last murder, Alberto Sacaramuzzino, who was a carpenter who was found burnt in his car in the woods near Arcanate. While doing his research around the metal scene as a whole, Macione was able to meet Fabio's idol, Glenn Benton, and was able to discuss with him Fabio's disappearance through his daughter and Fabio's sister, Alexandra Tollis. In a moment of extreme kindness, Glenn signed a magazine for Macione and told him, "When Fabio comes home, you give him this." Before we talk about how the cult was caught, Nobody was a technical, brutal death metal band who had our favorite mediator in quotation marks, Mario Macione, who did guitars and vocals on their only demo, A Dream of Death. Admittedly, I really like this demo, but I think it's just because I'm a really big sucker for techno. This demo features 4 songs, including the intro, being Intro, A Dream of Death, Feasting with the Blood of Christ, and Victims for Power. In January 2004, after growing increasingly paranoid about people confessing to the murders, Andrea invited his ex-girlfriend, Mariangela Pizzotta, who was present at Fabio's murder, to a friendly dinner. Mariangela would never return from that dinner, as when she arrived, she would be shot in the face by Andrea after a verbal fight. Andrea and his new girlfriend, the 18-year-old Elisabetta Ballarin, quickly begun to race to get the body hidden. They then mutilated and buried Mariangela alive in Elisabetta's greenhouse, after hitting her in the face with a heavy spade. After hours later, after doing a shitload of cocaine and heroin, Andrea and Elisabetta decided to get rid of Mariangela's car by driving it into the nearby river, which they of course failed due to being high as a kite on heroin and cocaine. This of course resulted in a car crash which would cause Andrea and Elisabetta to be arrested, where they confessed to Mariangela's murder, and eventually after a couple of months in custody, lead the police to the scene of Fabio and Kiara's murder. Among with Andrea's self-confession to the crimes, the police were also given a dossier of information by Macione, Fabio's father, linking every single member of the Beasts of Satan back to each individual murder and disappearance. This is one of the core reasons that the Beasts of Satan were caught and put away, finally solving the cold case. In the trial of the members of the Beasts of Satan, the News of Italy would label the crimes committed by the group as one of the most disturbing, vile, and shocking crime cases in post-war Italy. Andrea Volpe would be sentenced to 20 years in prison due to his cooperation with authorities and apparent regret for the crimes committed. He is currently studying a degree into the science of education after being released from prison in 2020. Mario Macione was sentenced to 19 years in prison, the lightest sentence of any of the actual murderers, due to him being a minor at the time of all the murders. He served 16 years of his 19-year sentence, and is still currently making music under the band Ferocity, and monetizing the story of how he killed his own best friend. Paulo Leone was sentenced to life imprisonment due to him taking a part and committing premeditated murder. Nicola Sapone was sentenced to life imprisonment also due to heavily playing most to all of the murders committed by the cult. Elisabetta Ballarin was sentenced to 24 years in prison for her connection and help in committing the murder of Mariangela Pizzotta. Lastly, the last member of the group to be sentenced would be Pietro Guerri, who would be sentenced to 12 years and 18 months.